Welcome to From Idea to Abstract. This is a workshop about how to write a proposal for the Tertiary Education Management Conference in September 2022. This workshop is presented by ATEM on behalf of TEFMA and the TEMC Organising Committee. We're very happy to see you here, and thank you for your interest in the conference. Sally Newton and I will be presenting the actual workshop. This is a short video for you to view beforehand. We found that presenting this workshop during March, April and May, the number of attendees has grown and there just isn't time to run this part of the workshop in person. So we're giving you a video instead. I hope you enjoy. My name is Margaret. You'll meet Sally in the actual workshop. So I'd like to start by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you from unceded ancestral land near the city of Geelong, which is our local Wadawurrung word meaning peninsula, and that's where I live, on the peninsula near Geelong. We're one of the few regional centres in Australia to actually be named by its traditional Indigenous name. I pay respect to the traditional owners of these lands and waters and the skies, and to their elders past and present. So, what is a conference abstract? It's a number of things, and if you do it well, it can really help you to present your idea, your topic, in the best possible way. It can also reduce stress as the conference date gets closer. So a well-written proposal or a well-presented proposal is saying to the conference organisers, this is what I want to present, this is how I will do it, and this is why your audience should be interested, why your conference attendees will be interested in what I have to say. So you're trying to convince the conference organisers first. And what you should be able to do is summarise the content of your presentation in your proposal. You want to make it compelling, because your proposal, your abstract, will be published by the conference committee on the conference website, in the conference app. We'll probably use some of the abstracts in publicity for the conference. So you want to make it interesting and compelling to your potential audience, to people who might actually pay money to get to Hobart to come and hear you speak. It's a promise to your audience about what you're going to deliver, and it needs to be something that you can actually deliver, but we'll come to that a little bit later. It's also a plan, a structure that you can build on. As I said, the conference tends to loom quite quickly in your calendar, and you might not be quite ready for it when it arrives. Having a really strong abstract and working with the organising committee on developing your abstract into a session, which will come later, gives you a great foundation to start with, and it really genuinely does reduce stress later on, because you've already done the hard work of thinking through exactly how you want to present yourself at the conference. So TEMC in 2022 is a little bit different. We have one full day of online programming and 3 days of in-person program. Out of those 3 days, 1 day is set aside for masterclasses, workshops, networking sessions, various other kinds of activities. So we have 2 days at which we'll have concurrent sessions and keynote speakers in person, and 1 day when we'll have those kinds of things entirely online. So you can choose to pitch your proposal to either an in-person audience or to an online audience. You might want to make a digital poster, which is a short animated presentation that lasts 2 or 3 minutes. If you don't think you've got enough to say for a whole session, definitely consider a poster. We'll be displaying those throughout the conference, both online and at the Hobart venue. So the average session will last about 15 to 20 minutes, plus interaction time. So we haven't formally decided exactly how long each session will be. We're going to be very flexible with the program and try to accommodate your needs. But essentially, try not to bore people. People are used to being able to absorb large, complicated ideas in a short period of time. Think of the TED Talks. There is no TED Talk that runs more than 18 minutes. So if world leaders can summarise their big ideas in less than 20 minutes, so can you. It just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of focus. A short chunk of information, one idea at a time, makes a happy audience. And also, as I keep stressing, will relieve the pressure on you, because focusing on just one thing means you don't have to try to include everything. Finding something to talk about might seem completely obvious to you, but sometimes people struggle a bit with where to find ideas or topics. You could start by reflecting on the last 12 to 18 months in your role, in your professional practice. What have been the new things that you've learned? What has surprised you or surprised your colleagues? What old beliefs have you had challenged? What old ideas have you revisited and looked at in a new way? And what kind of innovation has come out of that? How have you adapted to the changing world? It's often not a completely new thing that you would be presenting. You might have been going back to classic ideas in your particular field of study and questioning whether they actually still apply now. You might have encountered something that really challenged you to come up with a new way of looking at what you do and why you do it and how you do it. It might have been something surprising. It might have been something that was so obvious you kept missing it until just recently when you had an aha moment. Ideas are everywhere when you start to look, but start by reflecting on your own experience and your team's experience. You'll find something that's happened in the last 12 to 18 months or so that's worth talking about and sharing with peers. Once you've got your idea, it's time to think about how to present it. And essentially there are 4 key elements that the organising committee will look for in your abstract: context and relevance, focus, structure, and learning outcomes. We'll also be looking for some clue that you won't do what I just did and read out your PowerPoint slides. So number 1, context and relevance. When you provide context, you contribute to the development of knowledge in your profession, which is a noble thing to do. Whether it's facilities management, finance, student services, or whatever, you can add to the professional practice that goes on. You demonstrate the value also of looking beyond your own cubicle, or these days, looking beyond your own spare bedroom when you're working from home. You show your peers, your boss, your general audience that you are one of those people who does look more widely, who's curious and interested in what's going on. What is the broader strategic or professional linkage that makes your topic make sense? Why does this topic matter to you, to your institution, and to the broader sector? One way to think about context is to think about how your topic relates to the conference theme of Regenerate and Thrive. I think it's fairly obvious why we chose that theme. The fact that you are considering attending a conference in September and you're planning ahead for that means that you have come to a point over the last couple of years of upheaval and disruption and challenge, and you have innovated, you have regenerated, and you are ready to thrive. What we're looking for in abstracts is something that talks about that experience, something that takes us forward into the new world of the campus experience, of innovation, of the learning experience, of inclusion, and of leadership. We've described each of these 5 sub-themes in more detail on the TEMC website, and I urge you to have a look at that material because it will give you some ideas about things that you might talk about that are relevant to you. So if you are really stuck for ideas, that's a good place to start. And bear in mind that you will be asked when you submit your abstract to nominate one of those sub-themes as being particularly relevant. Of course, you don't have to be the world-leading expert on your topic. Part of the point of presenting at a conference is to use the opportunity to learn. The audience is counting on you to present facts, to present reliable information that they can act on, to use reliable sources. And one of the best ways to do that is by collaborating with other people, co-presenters, peers, team members, other people who work in your field, people who don't work in your field. Get their perspective too. But we do expect that your proposition, if you're making an argument about one thing or another, if you're proposing an idea, we do expect that there will be some evidence, some sources, some facts to back up what you're saying. So, some questions to ask yourself about context includes what the context is for your audience. How will this be of interest to people outside your particular professional field? What will attract people to come to your session, particularly the in-person sessions, which won't be recorded? So people will have to make choices on the day. Do I go to room A? Do I go to room B? How can you help in the way that you write your abstract? How can you help people to make that choice? What unique feature are you offering? So key element number 2 is focus. And this is about the notion that I mentioned before, that you can convey big complex ideas in quite short, pithy, exciting presentations or interactive sessions. First, you need to do the hard work of figuring out what specifically do I need to say? What is it that I want to talk about? Is my idea new? Is it going to be applicable to someone? How can I focus it down so that people will get what I'm talking about in a fairly short time? Remember, 15 to 20 minutes maximum. One way, here, this is an example. This is the part that takes the most time to get right, so we want to lead you through it a little bit. The idea is to be as specific as you can with your topic. So if you're working in HR, you might think, we know that things have been stressful. People talk a lot about work-life balance now, and we know that there are lots of different ways to help people deal with that. We provide, various wellbeing programs, employee assistance programs. We offer extra leave in lieu of salary sacrifice. Well, that's great, but it doesn't actually tell anyone why their institution should do any of those things. And it doesn't tell them what effect it actually has. There's no evidence to say that those programs help or don't help with employees' work-life balance. So you might do some reading and find that at your institution, 23% of your staff are willing to sacrifice a bit of their salary in order to gain extra leave. And in the university I most recently worked for, we called that the 48-52 program. So you only worked 48 weeks out of the 52 in the year. I don't know how it got that name, but that's irrelevant. The point is, a certain percentage of staff use that program. But again, it's factual, that statement, but it doesn't actually lead you to anything. It doesn't say whether that program is useful to them, why they're using it. They might not be using it for work-life balance. They might be using it to do a second job because who knows? You can't tell from that short statement about what's going on. So you're honing down. You're trying to get to the point where you can say, I have some evidence to show that salary sacrifice for extra leave does indeed help staff to balance their work and other commitments. Because we did a survey, we investigated, we interviewed people, we asked them, we gathered our evidence. And I'm going to present that evidence and show you. And there was maybe a surprising thing in that evidence that you might not have thought of. That's the essence of the topic that you would present at TEMC. Get away from the general statements and right down to the nitty-gritty, backed by facts. You want to get past questions and into the actual conclusions. And that's partly why these workshops are here and why Sally and I are available to help with this honing process. We will ask you some awkward questions if we think that you need to do a bit more work on this. So, on to structure. What is the best structure for a conference talk? It could be the TEDx structure. We all know this one. We've seen it in action so many times. It starts with telling a cute story, something that you can relate to, an intriguing idea, a mystery, something to catch your attention. It might be a heartwarming tale of, children struggling to make real their dreams. Then it moves on to explaining your idea about how that thing can happen. You need to explain your idea clearly with conviction, and then you describe your evidence. I've got a big idea, and this is why I think this idea will work. And then you go to a call to action. Talk about how people can take your idea away and implement it themselves, why we need to do it. And then you finish with describing the world as it will be if your audience members take your idea away and put it into action. So you're creating a story out of your topic. You're making people care, you're explaining, you're presenting your evidence, and then you're asking them to act and to do so with hope and optimism about the future. It's a pretty powerful structure, and that's why it works in so many different contexts, and particularly in the TED/TEDx context. But there are other ways to present your topic. A slightly simpler version, not much simpler, but slightly simpler version of a narrative is very familiar from case studies and death by PowerPoint presentations, but you don't have to present it in that way. You can tell it as a story. Once upon a time, the world was like this. That's where we were. And then something changed. What happened? Then we had to figure out how to respond to that change and come up with a solution. We had a theory, an idea. This is what we did. This is how we tested that theory, that idea. This is what action we took. And this is how it all turned out. The resolution, the happy ever after or the unhappy ever after. Because remember, Cinderella might have married Prince Charming, but after the honeymoon was over, they had to learn to live together. And that's a whole nother story. And any narrative like this, there's always a chapter 2 to come back to. There are other ways you might think about presenting your topic. These ones are not generally attractive to people who are beginning their career as a conference presenter, but if you feel the need to do a dramatic recital, to attempt an interpretive dance, maybe to present your idea as a poetry slam, please go for it. The conference committee would love it. In fact, one of our committee members is working on the idea of gathering a conference choir together. So if we can do that, think about what you could do to make something really interesting for people. Apply a bit of creativity. The Newsworthy structure is kind of the opposite of this scientific paper. It starts with your main points, your conclusion, the essential information, all loaded up front. and then you provide a bit of supporting evidence, and then you provide your background. Whereas an academic paper tends to go the other way, starting with background, looking at the evidence, and then coming to a conclusion. An abstract written in this structure might feel a bit like journalism, a bit like a press release, and there's a reason for that. But again, it's a structure that people can easily grasp while they're listening to you and understand how it flows, and that helps them to understand the topic that you're actually presenting. And here are some other structures that you might want to experiment with. The top 5 list: 5 things I wish I'd known before starting that project, 5 things you should do before applying for that next job. They are terribly effective and popular as a way of organising your thoughts and presenting them. They make a great poster too, hint hint. You might do a demonstration of a technique or a tool. You might hold a mock debate or a panel discussion if you're feeling very ambitious. Mock debate is easier because there's just the 2 of you. A panel discussion, it can be 3 or 4 people, and we are very willing to hear ideas about how to do that if you would like to give it a try. You might present your topic as a detective puzzle. We found an anomaly in our data, and here's how we figured out what was really going on, because it wasn't what we thought at first. And then you might step people through a Cluedo or snakes and ladders or something like that. Use an analogy to present your ideas. Whatever it is, try to inject a bit of creativity and your own personality into the way you present your topic. People will respond to that very warmly and kindly. So the 4th key element is learning outcomes. And as I said, this is something that the conference committee will be primarily interested in, but also it's something that people will use to decide whether they should attend your session. So what will they actually learn? Are there specific actions or ideas they can take away and use when they go back to work next week? Is there extra stuff you can provide? Videos, templates, tools, a framework, a diagram to take away and play with? Whatever you can do to make the learning experience more interesting for your audience will help to get your presentation accepted by the committee and onto the program. And here are some verbs that you can use to start each of your learning outcomes. You only need 2 or 3 learning outcomes for your abstract. But you might say, after attending this session, participants will be able to recognise the difference between a small project and a large complex project. They will be able to apply my framework to making decisions about who should be rostered on for morning tea duty next week. They will be able to demonstrate an understanding of topic X when their boss asks what did they learn next at the conference. There is a Word template that we're making available to participants in this workshop that'll help you to capture your ideas in a fairly logical way, and then you'll be able to shape them into an abstract once you've filled in the blanks in the Word template. Do bear in mind that there is a word limit of 400 words. The IT system will cut you off, so try to be succinct in every way. Don't include anything that's not essential or not to the point. One of the ways to make your abstract stand out, and I haven't addressed this in the rest of the slides, but it really is important, you need to demonstrate to the organising committee that your session will have some kind of interactive element where you engage with the audience about this topic. Whether you're asking questions, you can think about asking for a show of hands or running an online poll. We'll be all set up for that. We can accommodate all sorts of things. Asking for audience feedback through the Zoom chat or in other ways, in-person sessions, it will help your abstract to stand out from the crowd if you can do that. If you can be open and receptive to the ways that people want to interact with you. Really important. And really hidden, because I want people who've taken the time to attend this workshop to have an edge over everybody else. So good luck with that. Sally and I are available to provide individual feedback on your draft abstract over the next couple of weeks. So if you would like us to do that, please do get in touch. In the meantime, keep this checklist handy. It will help you to be organised in checking, reviewing, and submitting your abstract. So when you're checking, get other people to check your abstract too and give you feedback. Give them this checklist and see if they can tick off the items in the first two columns about topic and abstract. And when it comes to submitting online, make sure that you have prepared yourself with the details that are listed under organisation. It will save you time when you're dealing with the online form, because there are several pages of it and it does get a bit lengthy. So what you'll do is go to the TEMC website, log in, and copy and paste from your Word document into the web form. So be ready for that. And remember that the deadline for abstracts is the 30th of May. We don't plan to extend that deadline. This year's conference is somewhat smaller in scope. We don't expect to have as many presentation sessions as we have had in previous years, so competition for conference sessions will be hot. Make sure you submit on time because we really want to hear from you. This workshop has been held fortnightly through March and April. I'm recording this on the 8th of May as preparation for the last two workshops, which are on the 10th and the 24th of May. And as I said, the date for abstract submission is the 30th of May. Abstract submission, that sounds weird. The date to submit your abstract is the 30th of May. If you can submit it earlier, that's great, but that's the absolute date. So in the meantime, if you have any questions or you would like some individual feedback on your draft, do please feel free to get in touch with Sally or me. We'll look forward to seeing you either on the 10th or the 24th. The online workshops will be live, conversational, and completely without slides. So come prepared to share your ideas and to talk about them with a group of peers who are just as keen as you to go to Hobart or to present online in September. We look forward to seeing you. Thanks for your time.